Except for Perry. And we are live. We are live. Greeting, champion parents. Welcome back to Mommie Talk. As always, we are here to share information and resources to inspire positive parental engagement. We are real, relatable, and right on time with Dr. Pert, Miss Lisa, and myself, Miss April. And we do have a few special guests. Our special guests are members of our awesome police department. And we definitely thank you for attending or being on our platform here at Mommie Talk. So we have Lieutenant Pastella Williams. We have Lieutenant Darwin Roach. Did I say that right?
Roche, close enough.
Okay, Roche. Okay. Yeah, and then we have Officer Franklin, and then we have Corporal Ebony Powell.
Yay!
Thank you.
So we're definitely excited to have you all here. You know, I have a deep love for our police department, especially our Detroit officers, and we really just wanted to have this conversation to give you guys a voice, and again to point out something that is already known, that of course all police officers are not bad people, you know, obviously. So I think I want to start, if it's okay, if I could start with Pastella, just to tell us a little bit about who you are, you know, as a officer, as a parent, you know, tell us what you want us to know.
All at one time? Okay.
Yes.
I thought you were going to ask questions. Okay, so
I will, but
okay.
Just an introduction.
Yeah, so Pastella Williams, I'm with the Detroit Police Department. I'm a lieutenant. I've been there 35 years. Currently, I work in our communication section, which means that we are in charge of the 911 calls that come in, as well as dispatching the scout cars to various runs throughout the city.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, and I'll go to Corporal Ebony. If you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
My name is Ebony Powell. I've been with the police department. It'll be 22 years in September. I am a compliance liaison officer. I complete and am tasked to ensure that all our uses of force are done within guidelines of the department policy. So that's anytime a taser, injured prisoner, or anything of that nature, I'm tasked to ensure that everything is done properly.
Okay. Okay, and then Errol Franklin, if we can go to you next.
Okay. I'm Officer Franklin. I've also been with the department for a little over 22 years. Currently, I'm a neighborhood police officer. Been a neighborhood police officer since 2016. Pretty much what neighborhood police officers do is be engaged with the community. For example, during the school year, we usually do a lot of programs in our 6 schools in our precinct, our 6 middle schools, like bullying, conflict resolution, the importance of having a father in your life. We take the kids to the prison once a month. We take the women to Huron Valley Prison to talk to lifetime inmates so that they don't make the same decisions they made getting in there. And we take the boys to the reentry center down on Ryan Road. So we usually do that once a month when school was in session, but since the COVID, we had to put that program on a hold. But pretty much what I do is kind of liaison officer, deal with a lot of stuff with the community, do a lot of community events, backpack giveaways, just different things. And also we do a lot of things for the officers here to build up morale.
Okay. Okay, and Darwin.
Hi, my name is Darwin Roche. I'm a lieutenant with the Detroit Police Department. I've been employed with Detroit for 26 years. Prior to working in Detroit, I worked for the Michigan Department of Corrections for a couple years. And I also was an officer in the Air Force. I retired after 10 years of doing that. I've worked pretty much all up and down the spectrum of the department, from admin to patrol to investigations. Currently assigned to communications over with Lieutenant Williams. I direct report to her for issues that I have at my current command. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you again for being here. So I want to kind of go back through, I threw the first names out because I got stuck on the titles. So we have Lieutenant Pastella Williams. We have Corporal Ebony Powell. We have Officer Errol Franklin, and we have Lieutenant Duran Roche. So I just wanted to make sure, and I'll get it together, but I just said, once I messed up, I said, well, you might as well be fair across the board. So, and you guys can kind of just jump in, but I want to know what led you into law enforcement. Any, many, miny, mo.
All right, I'll go first, Officer Franklin. It just was something I always wanted to do when I was younger. I kind of put it off on hold because people was like, don't be no officer, it's dangerous. So, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do what I want to do. Because people say, you're gonna get shot, you're gonna get killed if you become a police officer. So, I prayed about it, and the Lord, told me to become a police officer. And my thing, I asked the Lord, I was like, Lord, if I ever get shot, please let it be in the hand or the leg or something. So showed up in 2004, I got shot twice, once in the leg and once in the hand. So I was like, Lord, you answer my prayers. I said if I got shot, but just, it was kind of a scary experience, but a lot of praying and stuff, it's still my calling to be a police officer to serve. So
okay,
that's what made me want to become a police officer, because it's something I wanted to do ever since I was a kid.
Okay, and I always wondered if the game Cops and Robbers inspired most kids to want to become police officers. What about you, Lieutenant Roche?
What actually caught me is that I was in the military unit. I was in my military unit, and one of my sergeants, Arthur Green, he was a recruiter for DPD, and he kind of pushed me. I was working for the Department of Corrections at the time. He was like, we need more men like you on the job, apply. And I kind of didn't want to be the police, because when I was 16 years old, I was beaten by a police officer in front of Kettering High School. And the irony is that officer that assaulted me ended up working for me once I got on the department. So the best 26 years decision I ever made. I mean, again, I can understand why they don't like us for certain aspects, but overall, it was more of a calling and a nudging. And so I'm very pleased and honored to, wear the badge of Detroit Police Department.
Okay, and you brought up a very a great point for parents to think about, to be when teaching your kids to be careful about I tell my kids all the time, be careful about your bridges, the bridges you cross, because you never know when you got to cross back over that same bridge. Yeah, so kudos to you for for the role change. So Lieutenant Williams and Corporal Powell, I kind of went to you guys after as far as that, because people always want to know what makes by you being women, what makes women want to go into law enforcement. And we know that that's not that it is more common now, but there was a time, of course, where it was a male dominated field. But I can probably see a couple of officers and see it be 30% of women as well. So as a woman, what made you want to go in that field?
Well, for me, I was in finance. I was in banking, and I didn't want to grow up. I didn't grow up wanting to be the police officer. I just like people, and I didn't like being kept in a building all day. So I would be in my office, and I'm looking outside, and I'm seeing people out and about, and I just decided at that point, I will reapply, because I applied when I was in high school, and my dad told me, no, you cannot do that. So I had to wait a few years, and then I came on. And when I came on, I had to honestly say that I didn't look at it as a career until I had about 10 years on the job. And then I realized that this is more than just a job. And one thing that I always liked about being a police back then, which is like 35 years ago, is we had time to interact and engage with the the young kids on the streets and stuff, we were able to stop the car and get out and talk to them. And because of the climate now, I don't know how many officers have that opportunity to do it, or they feel comfortable doing it, or the citizens feel comfortable doing it. But I've always enjoyed just being with people and helping people. And this was the best job that I felt that it turned out to be the best job for me to do it.
Nice. Okay. Corporal Powell.
And for myself, it's funny that Lieutenant says that because I also was into banking prior to getting on the job. And my thinking was to get something better for us financially initially. But once I got out there, like they taught us in the academy, some people is meant to call the police and some people are meant to be the police. And ironically, I feel like this is what I was meant to be. So I'm glad that I made the decision to join.
Okay. So I'm listening to your different scenarios or stories, and I am hearing, community, which is probably going to take me to Officer Franklin, but I'm hearing community from all of you all, the love for people, and the love to be or to want to be of service. Ebony, I like that, or Corporal Powell, I like that where you said that some people are meant to call the police, or say it one more time for me.
Some people were meant to call the police and some people were meant to be the police.
I like that.
Okay, absolutely. And so I like that because, that in any aspect or any career that you go into, it's like that same mindset should, kind of be exercised. So that's a great point. So are all of you guys parents? Are we all parents?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so which will lead me to my next question. So we coined the term champion parents, and a champion parent basically knows that they're not perfect as a parent, but me as a champion parent, I feel like my way is the way that goes on in my house, and I'm sure you all feel the same way. So as a champion parent, as a officer of the law, how does your children fit into what you do, or how do they influence your decision in what you do in protecting and serving? And
Okay, for me, like I was a police officer before I had my kids, so I have 5 kids right now. So my oldest child is 22. He's in the academy now in his 8th week.
Oh,
So
okay.
he decided to take on law enforcement also. So I have 3 boys and 2 girls. Boys 22, 20, and 19, and then my girls 13 and 11. So they know daddy is daddy, that daddy is not always police officer. When you come home, it's time to be daddy, to be a parent. Mm-hmm. But I've been married for 23 years. So my wife made the sacrifice of leaving her job as a math teacher to raise our kids. And we worked it out to where I'm working and providing, and she could be at home with the kids all the time. And from that result, all 3 of our boys are in college. They're doing well. No baby mama drama or anything like that. So kudos, all of them Christians. So we trying to raise them the right way. Yep.
That's right. Okay. Any other takers?
Yeah, I'll chime in. I think with my son, my youngest son, his mom and dad are both police officers. So it's like a dual-edged sword, because sometimes we see so much bad stuff out there that we try to be overprotective. But in the same way, we also, I just mentioned, just like what Officer Frank said, is that, being Christian, having those backgrounds and stuff like that. But we see a lot of stuff. So we try to be overprotective, but then again, we allow them to be kids. Just one story, and then I'll pass it on, is even with my kid plays, cops and robbers. You mentioned with the guns and stuff like that, how to play guns and stuff like that. And so part of me did not want him to go out and play, because I was thinking of Tamir Rice, when the police officer pulled up on him and, shot the kid. And I was like, and he was like, well, I just want to play with my Nerf gun. What's the problem? But, having those sort of things in our background, tends to make you overprotective. But overall, I think I can definitely separate the apple because, you know, it's God, family, and then it's my job. And I've never let that ever get above God and family. So, so we do a pretty good job.
Okay. Amen.
Myself, I can just say most recently with the child, it's been a struggle with all the parents being able to stay home during the pandemic. And my daughter is like, Mom, why aren't you staying home? Well, we don't have that option. We have to get to work, rain, snow, sleet, hail, or whatever the circumstances is. So we are a praying family too. So I just put everything in the Lord's hands. And, you know, we still do, as anybody who's friends with me on Facebook know, I pretty much make time for work and for family. And we just balance it out.
And my daughter is grown, she's 26. And like Darwin, she comes from mom and dad are police. And so we didn't have any problems with her. You know, we didn't talk a lot of police shop at home. Now I think I talk more to her about being safe and things, what to look out for. And so much for that. And I think she mentioned recently that she's glad that her dad and her mom were the police because she knows that there's good police officers out there. You know, she knows how we are, you know, as parents. And also when I do talk to her about my job, but I find myself doing more now, trying to keep her safe. She recently moved back into the city. And so I said, okay, you're back in the city. So you have to understand that this is how you have to act. And I'm talking about just dealing with people, period, you know, and so I'm more protective now than I was when she was growing up.
Okay.
You
know.
Okay. And so, you know, so that leads me to the point where, you know, today there is so much going on, right? And 2020 came in with a bang. And it was just like one thing after the other. And I'm telling you, I never saw any, of course, I don't know if anybody had any, you know, premonition that any of this was going to be happening. But it was just like a domino effect from all the murders that happened this year, you know, to the Black Lives Matter movement, the pandemic. And even now, you know, the issue with the schools and stuff that are going on as far as, you know, do we go face-to-face, do we go virtual? So there's a lot of things that's going on in our nation. And it's not just the few people who are experiencing things, it's pretty much everyone. So how has this affected you and your family from, like I said, from Black Lives Matter, from the pandemic, even the situations with schools? How has that affected you? Okay, so I'll call on Lieutenant Williams.
Okay, well, I'm single, so I live alone. And she's off on her own, living elsewhere. So I don't have the school issue, you know, and you know, I just mentioned how she feels about Black Lives Matter. Basically, you know, she has her own views on that. So I don't have a lot to say about that because it really doesn't, I'm not living that life right now, you know. And as far as like the COVID, what I did have, like my brother was sick and in the hospital with COVID. And so now I'm his caregiver. So that's you know, that's a challenge. But even doing that and working and, you know, just trying to survive through all of that is fine. But, you know, with Black Lives Matter, you know, we all probably feel about the same. We don't condone anything that we saw happening, you know, but I think people who are not in law enforcement really don't have an idea what we go through every day. And that's something that, you know, the panel here will talk about. But it's difficult for us because, you know, you have the people that don't understand, you try to explain it to them, while we have all our brothers and sisters in blue, and we have to be supportive of them because we know that we're not bad police officers, you know. Yes. And so it's that balance act where you're trying to be empathetic to those who don't know law enforcement, but we also have to support ourselves because we know what we go through every day.
Absolutely. And I wanted to point out, I remember when I saw the first protest after the George Floyd murder, when I saw the first one in Detroit, you know, because I'm like, oh, Detroit was doing, you know, pretty good. You know, it kind of made me mad when I looked at some of the protests because I felt that those weren't all, you know, it wasn't all Detroit residents. And I didn't like that. And I didn't like that. I felt like some of the officers were being, you know, picked on or, you know, agitated, if for lack of better terms, you know, so I really didn't like that. I'm all for the protest, you know, but I just didn't like some of the things that I saw. And unfortunately, you know, it just goes back to the point that you have bad people sometimes that get in the way of good people, and good people often pay for the things that bad people do. So, let's see. Amen.
Let me say, I know to speak about the protesting. When I viewed the protest, because I was driving around the time I was downtown, and I saw some of the protests. I saw one across from Hart Plaza and one on the freeway, I think 75. And it just seemed like Detroit wasn't a true representation. It was, you know, non-Detroiters, if I must say, who were protesting and being more so agitators. So of course, you know, that's definitely, they're not going to see it as non-Detroit residents. They're going to see it as Detroit residents who, you know, did these things. So I definitely can understand, you know, the plight of the police officers. And, you know, I have police officers that are friends also. And I understand, you know, there are bad police officers, there are good police officers. Like, it's bad people and good people. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Corporal Powell.
I think it's just been for far as Black Lives Matter, the pandemic, a lot of conversations for Peyton and I, you know, just trying to explain to her, you know, what's really going on and how to act, even as a 15-year-old. My biggest thing now is with the school, with this pandemic. It's as a champion parent, so you guys say, I have battled with myself about this in person. Well, they're doing hybrid where I live. So they're going to school 2 days out of the week and virtual for 3. And I just said a prayer on it. And we are, with that being said, I think every family has to do what's best for their child and their family situation.
That's right.
It was a struggle for us those last 3 months, doing school online versus in person. We got through it, and we're going to get through this as well. But it is a challenge as a parent and as a single parent, and for me to have to come to work every day. So we'll work it out. But I'm sure, I know I'm not the only one who's experiencing this, because there's a lot of single parents out, and just we'll get through it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Lieutenant.
online platform can be challenging. I can understand that for parents, because, you know, it's a lot of information and you're trying to get acclimated to, you know, the school work, and then have to balance your life. So it can be much, but like you said, we're going to get through it, and there's resources available. And although it seems like it's been forever, it won't be forever. Yeah.
Absolutely. Lieutenant.
As far as the pandemic, we managing. We talk about it. My son and I, we have very deep and rich, robust communications about race all the time, because as a Black man, you have to be able to discuss race. I mean, unlike any other time, it's more prevalent now. So we talk about that, and he wants to know why people are protesting and why people are so angry at the police, and why they don't like us. And it's very difficult, and sometimes, to explain to him that what's happening in the United States is not, this is incremental. This just didn't happen. George Floyd was the tipping point. But if you look at the tea leaves, this has been going on ever since Ferguson. And it's just a point of now it's reached that, you know, that breaking point, or that point now where we are in some instances losing our ability to consent to be policed. I mean, the public is really, you know, fighting us back. I think protest is just one form of it. About the country, pick a city, we're having some problems. You know, we think we got it bad. Imagine being a cop in Portland right now.
Yeah,
so I do have those conversations. Or Chicago, Atlanta.
Yeah,
I mean, pick a city, and we just been very lucky. So and so we just been very lucky. So, you know, as it comes to Black Lives Matter and those groups, I think the problem is that we got 2 camps right now. We got the law and order camp, and then we got the police brutality group. And so those are both opposite sides of the pole. But the truth is really in the middle, and we haven't gotten to that, because if I mention law and order, the people talk about police brutality don't want to talk about it, and if I talk about police brutality, the people in law and order don't want to talk about it. So we have to find a way to strengthen, and that's what, you know, my challenge. That's what, as a champion parent, using your term, Lisa, I push that down to my son and just have real conversations with him, you know, unfiltered, direct, and allow him the ability to feed back and ask me questions about it.
Yeah, so Lieutenant Roach, I just really want to say that I know it was an incident here in Detroit, and that's where we're in Detroit, where a police officer, in self-defense, of course, we found out murder, well, not murder, I wouldn't say murder, but a citizen was killed. And I remember that incident that happened down Livernois 6 Mile. And of course, I was just in the neighborhood. So of course, I'm just gonna ride by and look. But it was not a representation of Detroit residents. But I really want to say that I really appreciate our chief. A lot of people say that, you know, some things about him, but I'm definitely appreciative of him for him putting the truth out there, because it could have been a lot worse if he had waited weeks and weeks and weeks, because Detroit was ready. We were ready to, non-Detroiters too were ready to riot. But being that he was so prompt and he acted efficiently and put the information out there to, you know, subside that.
But, you know, even with the protesters, and, you know, we both can look at, I mean, you don't have to be right. Steve wanted to know that a lot of this is, you know, outside agitators. But to me, it's always, you know, we work the street, and it's always one thing. When I used to work in Pat can probably say more about it. In narcotics, you follow the money. Somebody's funding these protesters. They're not just getting up every day and making their life work. And so once you find out who's the source of the protesters, then you're able to control it. Like you said, we've just been like, you know, July, we, you know, had, you know, 4 officer involved shootings in which, you know, 3 people were killed. And it's just a point, it's kind of like a wick, and the police, we just keep blowing out the wick every time they get closer to blowing up. Like you mentioned, the chief did it. It's like a wick, and the chief really, you know, I will say that he really got ahead of it and had them conversations with people, because at the end, we have a segment of society that wants chaos and disorder. And it's like plugging up a dike. You know, you put one finger here, then another one springs out. And so that's where we're at in policing. Like I mentioned, you know, Portland, you mentioned Chicago, Atlanta, New York also have had their problems with that. So just, you know, it's an Arab Spring in policing, where right now, you know, people are fighting, you know, our ability to consent, and we're really having problems, and we're doing our best to try to respond in a way. And I think we are lucky to have someone, you know, like Chief Craig at the helm, because it could have been different. Could have been a lot different.
It could have been a lot different, but I just know as a teacher, well, I'm a former teacher, our students individually, I know my students individually, they're so well-spoken, they're well-mannered, you can talk to them, but collectively when they get together,
in that bunch,
rambunctious. So I just know that they're ready, because, you know, they're probably sitting, having conversations, focusing on Ferguson, focusing on all the other, you know, police issues. So they're just ready. So anything that's remotely similar, or they feel like it's similar, especially with the news being there, they're just, you know, just ready.
You're right.
Absolutely. Officer Franklin.
Yes, the thing with Black Lives Matter, like I said, we do a lot of programs in the school at the 2nd Precinct. And we have a program called Police Encounters. So we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly about the police. So we'll give the kids different scenarios of what they should do when they encounter the police. So, for example, we'll talk about a police shooting. So during a police shooting, we'll talk about how everybody try to come together. Oh, you know what? They killed a black guy, another black guy. You know, everybody come together and start protesting. And we, you know, we'll tell the kids, okay, so every day in Chicago, we got black people killing black people. How come y'all not protesting about that? In Detroit, we got kids 15 and 16 killing each other every day. How come y'all not protesting about that? So the kids, you know, they'll get a dumb look on their face. And then we'll explain, you know, sometimes we'll have an isolated incident where a police officer shoot and kill somebody, a black person. You know, a white officer might kill a black person, but we so quick to protest about that. But we killing each other each and every day, and nobody protesting about that or saying anything. So we try to put that in our kids' heads in the middle school, and some of them do get it. So that's my take on the Black Lives Matter movement.
Okay. Okay. And you brought up some very interesting points. And, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you about your choices and your families, just again to, bring some human, some humanness, if that's for lack of a better word.
Relatable.
Some relatable, yes, definitely.
Are from Detroit and can relate to us, to give us a accurate summarization of what it is to be a good police officer.
Right. To be a real police officer.
Yeah.
Because apparently those who took the lives of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, apparently those aren't, real, well, the other ones wasn't police.
Anyway. They don't represent us.
They don't
represent. Absolutely.
Exactly. So was there ever a time, and I know I'm jumping around, so just jump with me. So was it ever a time that you wanted to do something different, or you felt like, dang, I should have done something different?
Well, for me,
one more thing. I'm sorry. One more thing. So I know that, so just quickly, that question, but I want to also kind of add, just to give it a little, extra. So Lieutenant Williams, Lieutenant Roche, Officer Franklin, Corporal Powell, also, was it something else within the department? Like, were you always a lieutenant? Were you always an officer? Was it different divisions you worked in? So both of those questions all together.
Okay. So, all right, go ahead, Franklin.
Okay, for me, I started off at the academy called the Tactical Service Section in '98. That's where I started at. So pretty much TSS was a unit where we'll go and hit the hot areas, looking for the guns and looking for the drugs, just doing different things, working 7 to 3, the power shift when most of the crime is happening. So we'll go to east side, west side, southwest side, wherever it was hot, that's where they sent us. So I did that until 2013. And then after that, in 2015, I got in community relations, becoming a neighborhood police officer. And being in community police officer, you are more effective than actually doing patrolling, because people come up to you more when you riding down the side streets, not just riding down the main streets. For me, I ride down like the side streets. I'm down Steele, Sorrento, Montrose, just riding down the residential street, driving 10 miles an hour. Citizens flag you down, you get out your car, you talk to them, they'll give you some information, you slip them your card, they call you later on, give you some vital information. You pass that along to your special operations or your traffic people. Like a lot of people might have some problem with people speeding down the residential streets. Okay, Officer Franklin, could you help me? Okay, I'll leave them my card. They call me on my cell number. So I'll give it to the traffic enforcement officers. They'll go over there for a couple of hours, enforce, do some traffic enforcement. Then them citizens, they'll call you back. Thank you, Officer Franklin, for doing such and such. You got to be effective. That's the thing.
Okay. Corporal Powell. It looked like we better catch him when we can, Corporal Powell.
No, right. Well, for me, I spent my whole career at the 2nd precinct pretty much. I started out on patrol. I did video arraignment, where we used to arraign all the prisoners at the precinct versus actually being at 36th District Court. When we became districts, I became a part of the administrative staff. So I did all admin paperwork. From the admin, I went to the compliance liaison officer, which is what I'm doing right now.
Okay. Lieutenant Williams.
I started out as a police officer, where we all do. And so I was at the precinct for a few years. And then I just bounced around. I'm not going to go from place to place, because the Lord knows I've been so many places. But yeah, Darwin knows. Darwin and I, we worked together many years ago. So I've been an investigator. So I got promoted to as an investigator. And then I got promoted to sergeant. I was the sergeant for about 5 years. And then in 2002, I got promoted to lieutenant, and that's what I've been doing ever since. So my background is investigations. I've been in disciplinary, recruiting, medical section a couple of times, communications a couple of times, the precincts a couple of times. I've worked for the assistant chief at one point. So I've been all over the department. So to answer your question, did I ever want to do something else? There was no need for me to do anything else because the department has allowed me to do everything. You know, I never have gotten bored doing anything because when I got comfortable in one place, I was moved someplace else. So I never got bored with the police department. In fact, when I came on, I had an officer tell me back then, at that time, for supervisors, we have to work 25 years before we can retire. But back then they were saying, well, if you stay in any particular unit, precinct or whatever for 5 years, and then you move on, then by the time you will have your 25 years in, you will have worked 5 years, 5 different places, because you're not staying there very long. For me, I'm averaging like 3.5 years wherever I stay. And so that has afforded me to just learn a lot, meet a lot of people, and just experience the best part of the department. So I know I've never wanted to leave. Now I do, but during my career, no, I've been fine.
Okay, when you say you do, like, you mean, do you want to retire now, or you want?
Right.
Okay, that's what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it's time for me just to like hang up the handcuffs and do something else. You know, sit at home. 35 years is 35 years. It's time to stop.
That's a long. Yeah, that's a long time.
Well, you look good.
Thank you.
All right, Lieutenant Roche.
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, Pat and I, career path is pretty much the same. I work for assistant chief. I work administration. I work every precinct, boots on the ground, with the exception of Southwest over number 2. There has been times where I did want to kind of walk away from this job and do more of a religious-based, God calling sort of work. But I got bills, so yeah, I kind of stuck with this for the long time, and so what's important now is that it became a period of time. What Officer Franklin was mentioning is that we've gotten away from that sort of policing where you had time to really go out and know your neighborhood, not just responding from police run to police run and stuff like that, and that proves problematic for someone who really wants to go out and interact with the community and not being able to do so in a non-confrontational atmosphere.
Okay. So I'm interested to know, how do you connect with the community? And I know Officer Franklin, I believe that I know you kind of already answered pretty much that. How do you connect with the community, and what advice? So here I go with a double question again. So what advice would you have for the champion parents out there, and Darwin kind of touched on this earlier as well, but what advice would you have for the champion parents when trying to encourage their children when, if they've ever been pulled over, or just the potential of being pulled over? How do you teach them how to interact with officers? And I'm gonna tell you what the question came about. A couple of years ago, Darwin and I, or Lieutenant Roche and I, had a conversation, and I believe you were saying that you didn't think it was necessary to teach children to be scared of the police, but they need to understand their rights, but they also needed to understand how to judge the situation, how to act accordingly. So that's my statement.
Just interject and just say something before you all respond. So I have a 20 and a 21-year-old. So when my sons began starting to drive and everything, I told them, and this is my honest response, me coming as a parent, I told them, do whatever it is to make the police feel comfortable. Don't do any sudden movements, no attitude, just put yourself in a position where you're trying to make them feel comfortable. You don't want them to assault you. Of course, you don't want them to do anything illegal towards you, but just make sure they feel comfortable.
Yeah. So what do you guys, how do you feel about that?
Well, my suggestion to the parents, you got to lead by example. Like, if I pull over a parent, you know, you can't, if you got your kids in the car, don't be like, y'all don't got nothing better to do. And then, you know, that's what they'll say. And then they don't have a license on them. Oh, I don't have a license, but I have my ID. So you telling me that, now you know I could lock you up, write you a ticket, and impound your car. So the thing is, with the parents, you got to lead by example. You know, if you ever, you know, parents got to explain, if you ever pulled over, you know, just do what they say. Roll your windows down, put your hands on the wheel. Officer supposed to tell you why they stopping you. I walk up to the car, Officer Franklin, I stopped you because you went through the red light. Okay, so let me see your license, reg, and insurance. They'll comply. But a lot of times when we get that attitude, oh, y'all don't got nothing better to do, that's when we go, okay, we don't got nothing better to do, right? And write them a ticket. Because of the attitude, a lot of times people get tickets because of their attitude. A lot of times we're going to just advise you, okay, well, just watch the light next time. But it's like when you get an attitude, you know, officers, we human. More likely you're going to get a ticket.
Well, Officer Franklin, I got tickets and I'm sweet as a sugar pie.
You know what? I've gotten out a lot of tickets by telling them I was a teacher. So they be like, "Oh, you're a teacher? Okay, well, slow down or whatever." So I've gotten off a lot of warnings. Maybe like 2 or 3 times I got a ticket because I still told them I was a teacher, but I got off a lot of times by telling them I was a teacher.
I have never tried that. Dang, I'm gonna have to use that next time.
Oh yeah.
Look, April knows, y'all. All right. So, anybody else have any advice for any?
I got it. Yeah, and I'm sure an officer on this can absolutely agree with what I'm about to say. Don't use us to scare your children.
Yes, I hate it. I hate
You
it.
ever sit in a restaurant and so
Wait, say that again. Say it again.
Over, hey, you know, if you don't do right, we gonna lock. Okay, I'm gonna say it again. Don't use us to scare your children. We sit in a restaurant or somewhere and you drag your 3 or 4-year-old up and say, hey, if you don't act right, they're gonna put you in jail. And that happens. I know every officer has been through it. So number one, don't use us as scare your kids. And then number two, it's a term called intergenerational socialization, which basically means I'm a fan, so I teach Darwin how to be a Tampa Bay fan. So like Officer Franklin had mentioned, you know, if you watch your parents talk to the police officer sideways, you're going to have that same level of, you know, discourse or disrespect. So, you know, lead by example, and also bring your kids to the community meetings. I mean, they're free. You can come to every precinct has community meetings. I don't know with the COVID now, it might be different, but you know, we need more encounters, and our encounters need to be, you know, bring your kids to these meetings. And I know the 6th precinct is doing something right now with an ice cream truck that's going around delivering ice cream to the kids. So, you know, be more involved in your precinct, you know, who your commander are, who your shift people are. Bring your kids there. Once the precincts open up, do that. And, you know, don't use it as fear. Realize, you know, your kids, you're the first teacher to your kids. And if you teach them that the police officers are bad, they're going to have bad, you know, thoughts about us. And also, you know, get more involved in your local precinct community meetings.
Thank you for bringing that up. That's a very good point. Just understanding, knowing what precinct you live near, understanding or learning about the community events and getting to know the people of the police department. So I definitely, I agree with that. I haven't really done it, but I agree with it.
And I would say just teach them to respect the police, because there's a big lack of respect for the police, a lack of authority, period. That falls for teachers, you know, anyone of a authoritarian figure, because these kids are very disrespectful. And I think it's a lot of it because it's at home. I've noticed just working in a skating rink where they'll call their mother to come check an officer. Instead of coming to find out what's going on, they come there to check an officer.
Yeah.
So just respect. Just
I know
the whole
they do
thing
it in
about
teachers
respect
all the time.
Right.
Yes,
But
and I respect you all.
how you gonna come and check an officer?
The little girl say she's gonna get her mama up here to check me.
Oh, okay.
Look,
Oh, amen.
Wow. Yeah, parents are interesting. I usually have gotten really good parents in my teaching career. So I never had a student like tell me they're gonna get their parents and the parent actually come up. But I've seen parents come up to fight teachers, and I've seen
Yeah.
parents come and fight administrators. I've seen the parents come fight other students, but I wouldn't imagine a parent would try to check an officer. Okay. I would okay. It's believable.
it happens.
It happens.
Mhm,
It happens. It happens.
mhm.
Wow. Bold. All right, Lieutenant Williams.
No, I think they pretty much covered it. It's about respect. You know, they want us to respect them, but they have to respect us. And they have to understand that we're human. You know, we took an oath to serve and protect, yes. I said, but we are still human, you know. We all have kids, we all have bills to pay. You know, we want to go home after the end of our 8 hours to see our families and do what we want to do. And they have to understand that we're human, you know. So you want to come up there and check an officer at a skating rink, you know, then you're going to get what you get, you know, because she's human. You know, don't come up there and think you're going to, you know, beat up with somebody, a police officer, because we're human first. This is our job, but we are people, and people need to understand that.
That's right.
And
And you
respect
know
is a two-way street.
And
Mhm.
it's funny. So Miss April and myself, we both are educators, and it's funny because I remember having these conversations with other educators and students. And, you know, like I always tell my students, like I grew up over by Central High School. I went to Cody for high school, but I went to Durfee and Roosevelt, you know, so I'm like, I come from, you know, people just like you do, you know, and we are human. We are human. And, you know, parents definitely need to make sure that their children are respecting. You know, anytime I hear a situation with either one of my kids, you know, I'm not always asking, well, what did the other kid do to him? You know, I don't ask that question. I just try to figure out what happened. I talk to my son, I'll talk to the teacher or whatever, my daughter as well. But I also try to, you know, I definitely listen, you know, to the teacher, just to try to get, you know, a better perspective. So I definitely agree with everything that
And I do like what Officer Franklin said. We, as parents, we do have to provide a model for our kids.
Yes.
Our kids would
Absolutely.
follow us and listen to what we do. I mean, and look at what we do, and also not necessarily listen to what we say, but they'll look at what we do. So if we provide a good model for them, they'll follow that.
Okay. So lastly, I am wondering, you know, what is going on right now as far as the conversations with your colleagues? What are the conversations that are going on? How and I would imagine that most of the people you talk to probably you all kind of share a lot of similar thoughts and feelings about everything. And then, so just want to know, what can we look forward to? Just some positive, you know, some positive notes that we can look forward to, some positive advice. Are you working on any special projects? Going any special places?
All right now.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah.
Okay. Amen.
Well, what does your shirt say, Lieutenant Roche?
Oh, Darwin loves you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We love you too, Darwin.
That's nice.
Thank you.
But we love you too.
Good.
You know, you got to spread. You definitely do have to spread. You have to spread love. You have to, you know, be respectful and treat people. I always feel like treat people the way that you want them to, you know,
Yes.
to treat you. You know. And
we definitely got to be positive. Yeah, like Ms. Lisa said, treat people how you want to be treat you. But it also be positive, optimistic, and spread love. You know, just stay away from negativity and hate. You know, and be, you know, happy and prosperous. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm so grateful that you guys came on. First of all, I had to thank our champion viewers, those that are watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. I couldn't my feed went away, so I couldn't get to any questions. I don't know why I don't see any questions or anything.
We
I'm
don't
not.
really have that many questions. I was checking. We just have
Okay.
Lord Williams says, hi, Mommy Talk. Of course, our champion parent, Miss Dorothy Morden. She did say, I think protest is for right reasons, but some of the people doing wrong things like looting, burning, fighting, etc. Yeah, and then she said, you know, make sure we safe, make sure the police officers are safe, and thank you all for coming on. Yeah.
Yes. And hi, I see Nicole Corbin said hello as well. Hi, Nicole, and thank you for tuning in.
Good evening. Yeah, she did say good evening. I missed over that one. Yeah.
So before Miss April closes out, I just need you all to know, you know, when I ask people to do things, I'm always asking for a purpose. So one day the schools will be open again, and I am going to call on you to come talk to my students. And my student population that I work with, I do try to introduce different fields. Everything, a lot of times when schools have career days, it's always about fields to go in where you have to go to college, or, you know, it's just different things. So I wanted to offer, you know, just different things. I know the police department could definitely use good people, you know, a constant flow of good people. So I think it's important that we introduce all these things to children. And again, I agree with what you said about not using law enforcement to scare your children. I've never done that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it happens.
I tried one time. Like, do you need me to take you to the police office? Would you? I did, but we never made it. I think I threatened,
but you know, I said this.
Did that.
I said this to one parent. She came into the precinct, and I told her, you know, her kid was incorrigible. I think she was running away, had a boyfriend. And I said, man, if I could solve a problem that took you 13 years to make in 30 seconds, I wouldn't be here. I would be somewhere world peace and doing something like that. So if any advice, don't wait till your kids get to that point of incorrigibility. Reach out to us and try, you know, at the tip of the spear, we can get, maybe facilitate some help. Because sometimes when the parents bring in the kids, I mean, it's been so far gone that, you know, at this point, and we definitely don't want, I don't think anybody here from a law enforcement standpoint ever got on this job to arrest anybody. No one said, I just want to get on the job to arrest people. We do it because we care. We do it because it's our calling. But if we can find ways to be more preventive, to prevent the kids from getting into the system, then that's, you know, but it takes a village. So, but yeah, definitely don't use us to scare your children. That's definitely not a good start.
Yeah. And so please, everyone, exercise your right to vote. Make sure you complete your census. Yes, vote, complete your census. Be safe, wear your mask, use hand sanitizer. Remember to practice effective social distancing. Thank you, everyone, for an awesome interview. And to our wonderful Detroit police officers, we definitely appreciate you.
Thank you.
We also thank all of our Facebook Live audience for tuning in to Mommie Talk. Continue to visit our website and on our social media platforms at MOMMIE Talk Network. Until next time, champion parents. See you later.
All right. Good night.
A good one.
Thank you so much. And I will be calling. And Officer Franklin, I saved your number because I definitely.
He's the man, Lisa. He's the man.
Neighborhood officer. Yes, sir. Thank